Now, the current gasoline shortage may last until subsidies are eliminated. That's according to the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, or IPMAN. This was announced on Thursday by IPMAN's National Operations Controller, Mike Osatuyi. The federal government had announced that it would stop making subsidy payments in June of last year after an additional 18 months. Mele Kyari, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, stated on Wednesday that there are currently no issues with the nation importing petroleum products. Well, we're joined now by Zakka Bala, an energy expert and public affairs analyst, to discuss this story further. So, firstly, I just want to get a couple of facts straight here.
Thank you.
You're very welcome to be here. The subsidy, Mele Kyari says that will be ceased to be paid in June of this year, correct?
So I had.
Right. Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, I don't know, but I'm at variance with anybody looking at the context of Nigeria insisting that you remove subsidy on refined petroleum products, especially petrol, because we've removed subsidy in the price of diesel already. We've removed subsidy in the price of kerosene and the price of aviation fuel. In the context of diesel, what did we see? We have seen the collapse of strategic industrial sectors, strategic domestic sectors, and strategic commercial sectors. That's why in Nigeria today, banks open at 10 o'clock and they close at 3. The principal reason is because they are suffering from energy crisis. If you go to the airports, the airlines we're seeing flight delays and mass sack. And one mistake a lot of people are doing is this. Many people have not even bothered to ask themselves the meaning of subsidy and looking at it in the context of Nigeria. You see, subsidy is a globally accepted economic pain cushioning concept. So subsidy is not something that is unique to Nigeria alone. And that means if the concept is not working in Nigeria, that will never invalidate the global meaning of subsidy. So in the context of Nigeria, what we are supposed to do is to look at the inefficiencies that are making subsidy not to work. Okay, we've removed subsidy in the price of diesel. We've removed subsidy in the price of aviation fuel. We've removed subsidy in the price of kerosene. Have we seen the equitable competition? The answer is no. And the only product remaining now is petrol. But between you and I, if we remove subsidy in the price of petrol, quote me, that this economy, the economy of Nigeria, will grind to the cliff edge and collapse into the valley.
So the federal government, though, would say something to the effect that subsidy reform saves the public purse trillions of naira every year. Is it worth it to go through subsidy reform?
That's an error. Let me tell you. Let me look at subsidy from another angle and define government. First of all, who are governments or who are leaders? Leaders are those that citizens have collectively elected and handed over their economic, political, and social destinies for them to manage in national interest. Those are people we call leaders. And when you look at it from that angle, the question you are going to ask yourself is this. You're talking about Nigeria, a country of like 200 million citizens, relying on less than 10,000 megawatts of electricity. That tells you that there will be energy crisis. That will also tell you that we will have issues with getting energy. So many people look at distillates. When I say distillates, I'm talking about refined petroleum products. When many people look at distillates just from the point of transportation, but in the context of Nigeria today, because we don't have electricity, petrol is a source of energy. Diesel is a source of energy. And I keep asking a basic question. If internal refining were to be a bad business, why are other countries refining and Nigeria will go to those countries and buy? Assuming refining is bad. And what keeps getting me surprised is the continuous insistence in Nigeria that importation is the way to go. You can never deregulate the price of a product that has no substitute and expect that you will not see a backlash or crisis. Let me give another elementary example of subsidy. The only reason why we have Nigerian Army, Nigerian Navy, Air Force, and the rest is because we need subsidy in security. Because some people are not doing well in the security agencies, they are stealing the monies of the guns and armor tanks, and you say you're going to do away with the military. If you do away with the military, some can still be able to pay for their security, but how many are they? Remember recently, Nigeria was described as a country that was suffering from multidimensional poverty. About 133 million Nigerians. And you're talking about a country where, as I speak to you today, the minimum monthly wage of Nigeria cannot buy a 50-kilogram bag of rice.
So let's talk about this multidimensional poverty.
Yeah.
Removing the subsidy on fuel risks raising prices even further for
Correct.
ordinary consumers. By my count, the Buhari administration, over 2 terms, has promised on at least 4 times that they would change the subsidy regime for fuel. We haven't seen it happen at the level that they've been promising. They've now said that it's going to happen in June of this year. Well, we know by then Mr. Buhari will
have been gone.
He'll be in retirement, right? Is he just, and is his administration just passing this political hot potato to the next president of Nigeria?
Whatever the intentions are, is not my concern as a loyal Nigerian. But as far as I'm concerned, removing subsidy in the context of Nigeria and providing palliatives is just like you creating a wound before providing the drugs or medicine. What makes you think that wound you're going to create will not become cancerous? These are the basic questions we ask. And I keep asking, if subsidy, if internal refining were to be a bad business, why are other countries refining and we go there and buy? Nigeria, as a country that is very rich in natural gas and crude oil today, has been reduced to a country where you produce beans, but every time you need bean cake, you have to go to somebody who does not produce beans or buy. Nigeria has been reduced to a country where you produce so much cassava, but every time you need cassava flour, you go to somebody who doesn't even cultivate cassava and buy. That doesn't make sense.
So let's go back to some of the comments by Mele Kyari. We've heard in the past Kyari say that there has been an issue with smuggling here in Nigeria, that fuel is subsidized by the federal government and it's then sold in other countries in West Africa, effectively a form of arbitrage. He said that Nigeria is subsidizing the rest of West Africa's fuel. Has that problem been sufficiently addressed?
I feel very sorry and disappointed when I hear Nigerian leaders speaking like that. Every country is supposed to have borders. And when you have borders, you have those you have employed and entrusted the security and the territorial integrities of your country in their hands. So if you have porous borders, it's not the problem of the other person on the other side. And this is the question I also want to ask. So every time you want to feed your children in your house, you have to be bothered about what somebody else feeds his family with. Because if you say because crude oil or distillates will be moved across the border, so you will up the price. In the other country, if they want to take care of their citizens, do they bother about what happens to you? So if for any reason the customs are not doing their job, or the immigration or whatever, that means you have to do something about the inefficiencies of the security agents. But you don't you don't throw away the concept just because you have the wrong people. Tackle or face the inefficiencies.
So I want to tap into your global oil market knowledge, because there's an ongoing discussion in the markets about the effect of China opening after the end of the zero COVID policy.
Correct.
The Chinese government has put out tenders for a significant amount of crude oil. We know that the Chinese market is an absolute massive market with very limited domestic production.
That's right.
If that is to be the case, that China is to import a ton of oil more, what effect will that have on the Nigerian fiscal balance and the cost of fuel here?
Well, it also depends, I have to say, because as we speak today in Nigeria, we've not even been able to take care of our domestic needs. I have a lot of friends from China. In China, China utilizes everything everything, the raw materials, the vegetable, everything is taken care of and produced in China. So what I would have said in Nigeria is that the first thing Nigeria needs to do is to take care of her domestic needs, and that means internal domestication. And a practical example is this: Nigeria is more of a natural gas nation than an oil nation. Between you and I, from natural gas alone, you're going to get ammonia. From ammonia, you're going to get urea. From urea, you're going to get fertilizer. So from that angle alone, if you boost fertilizer production, you're going to boost food security. From natural gas alone, you can drive the gas turbines and generate so much electricity. If you generate so much electricity, there will be less demand for petrol or diesel that we are going to use on our generators at home. In fact, there will be glut at the filling station. So the first thing is internal domestication. Then when we are sufficient internally, we now look at the West African sub-region. If we can supply the West African sub-region, we're going to make so much money. Then extend it to the continent of Africa. With that alone, we can control the African economy. If we do that, that will be enough for us to be highly recognized and respected among the Committee of Nations.
Mr. Zakka, thank you very much for joining us here on GBR.
Thank you.